Hello and welcome back to the NFL Abroad podcast. In this episode, we'll be predicting all of the Week 10 games. First up, on Thursday Night Football, we see the Chicago Bears taking on the Carolina Panthers in what is probably the battle for the number one seed in this year's draft. Both of these teams are coming off tough losses last week. I don't think either of these teams will be full of confidence. We see the Chicago Bears this week extended Montez Sweat for 4 years on a $98 million contract. But for me personally, I don't think it'll be enough. I think Bryce Young and the Panthers are going to get their second win on the board. And I think the difference will be the quarterback play. Bryce Young, obviously, the young prospect. He's quite exciting despite their poor record. Obviously, the Bears are still stuck with Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, Tyson Bagent last week, he certainly struggled. There were 5 total turnovers last week against the Saints. He needs to cut that out of his game this week against the Panthers if he's wanting to win. But I'm actually impressed with that Bears defense, and I think they'll stand up strong this week. Considering they turned the ball over 5 times, they only actually lost by 1 touchdown against the Saints. That struggling Panthers offense, I don't think it's going to capitalise this week at all, like we have seen most of the season. I think Bryce Young is quite clearly struggling. He's going to continue to struggle, and that offense is going to struggle. So give me that Bears defense, and give me the Bears to beat the Panthers. So moving on and back to Germany, we see the second German series game. It's the Colts taking on the Patriots. The Patriots last week are coming off a disappointing loss against the Commanders. The Colts actually beat the Panthers. And I'm looking at this Colts team and I'm thinking they're going to get past this Patriots team pretty easily. The Patriots, they're struggling against that run defense. We know how good Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor are, and I think they'll exploit that Patriots defense this week. They've also given up the most yards per game, the Patriots. I see that continuing, and I see the Colts winning comfortably against the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on this one. I think the Colts are going to run through the Patriots. I know the Colts won last week, but I was quite disappointed with them. I thought they'd have a lot more in the running game against one of the worst run defenses in the league, and I expect them to get back to that this week. I expect them to exploit Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, and I expect them just to have a lot of the time possession against this Patriots team, who couldn't even beat the Commanders this week. Not last week, sorry, who traded 2 of their best players away. For me, obviously, I think the Colts, they'll struggle to lose this game, is what I'm going to say. So yeah, give me the Colts in this one. Next up then, we move on to the 6 o'clock games. We have a battle of the AFC North, the best division in football right now, and we've got the leaders, the Baltimore Ravens, taking on the Cleveland Browns. This is arguably a test of the 2 of the best defenses in the entire league. Both of these teams are coming on off a big wins as well last week. But for me personally, I just can't see anything here other than a Ravens win. The reason I say that is I just think the quarterback play is going to be the deciding factor here against an elite defense. I think Deshaun Watson is going to struggle against this defense of the Ravens. They just can't. No one seems to be able to challenge him at the minute. They're giving up the lowest percentage of touchdowns per drive of any team since the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. So I just can't see Deshaun Watson changing that narrative this week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, very low-scoring, but I think Lamar Jackson's going to have to use his legs and also use his running game. The running game last week for the Ravens took over that game, and I expect to see something similar this week. So yeah, give me the Ravens.
Yeah, this is the number 1 against the number 2 defense in the NFL. And I like the Ravens more. I like Lamar Jackson more. I think I trust him more than Deshaun Watson right now. He's sort of been in and out of the team because of injury. So I'm going to trust Lamar Jackson yet again, and I'm going to have him to beat this Browns team. So moving on, we see the Bengals taking on the Texans. And this, for me, is going to be one of the games of the week. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. The Bengals, are coming in, winning their last 4 games. They're certainly heating up. Joe Burrow's looking a lot more healthy, and Jamar Chase is looking open. I will mention the run game looks a little bit shaky, and I'm still not impressed by that defense. However, I think it's going to be enough to beat this Texans team. It could go either way, and I've struggled to make a decision throughout most of the day, and I was really impressed with the Texans last week, in particular CJ Stroud. Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell, they all went for 100 yards, so it could be a shootout. I'm not impressed with the Texans defense either, so it could be a high-scoring affair. I think it will be, but I'm just going to go with Joe Burrow and the Bengals this time.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Texans in this one just because CJ Stroud is absolutely electric at the minute. Obviously, he certainly is going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year unless he goes down injured or something crazy happens in the next few weeks. And obviously the Texans are a very exciting team to watch at the moment. But for me, I'm going to use my head on this one. I'm also going to take the Bengals. I mean, like you said, they won 4 in a row now. The last 2 were the Bills and the 49ers, and I just think the Texans are lower caliber opposition than those previous 2 teams. Joe Burrow, like you say, he's getting a lot better, back to his brilliant best, back to being a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think the only negative really for the Bengals is I believe Jamar Chase actually dealing with a little bit of an injury. That could be a factor, but I don't think it's a serious injury. And for me, I think the Bengals have got too much for the Texans right now. I think they'll continue their charge for the playoffs in what is the best division in football. Right then, next up, we've got the Steelers taking on the Packers. The Steelers are now 5-3 on the season. The Packers come off a big win last week against the Rams, although they were without a quarterback. And for me in this one, I think the Steelers just keep finding ways to win. They never really look impressive. They don't do anything spectacular. We know they've got a good defense. The offense sort of just gets by. So I just think the Steelers are going to somehow find another way to win against this Packers team. I think TJ Watt on that defense is going to be all over Jordan Love all game long, really. And again, the Steelers offense will just do enough. And I hope to see them get George Pickens more involved this week.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to read into that Packers victory against the Rams last week too much, considering they're playing a backup quarterback. I think if they have Matthew Stafford in that game, it's completely different. Like you said, I'm a fan of that Steelers defense. Statistically, they're not as good as what you would think, but they've got playmakers like TJ Watt. He's already got 9.5 sacks on the season. I can see him extending that streak. That Steelers defense is going to step up once again, and the offense will just get by for another win. Moving on, we've got 2 teams coming off a bye this week. The Jags are taking on the 49ers. And can a bye slow this Jags team down? I don't think it will. I think they'll continue the momentum this week. And you know what? I think they'll be liking this matchup against the Niners. They've still got big injury concerns with the likes of Deebo Samuel, Dre Greenlaw and Trent Williams. They're all questionable through latest updates. So we'll have to track that and see if they're going to be available for this game or not. So I think the Jags will capitalise on these injuries like other teams have. The Niners are currently on a 3-loss streak and I see it extending to 4. I'm taking the Jags to beat the Niners this week.
Well, I think for both of these teams to prove it weak, to be honest. The Jags, obviously, people are saying they're potential Super Bowl contenders, but if they are, they're going to sort of beat the likes of the 49ers. And likewise for the 49ers, obviously they've lost 3 games back-to-back now. They've got to bounce back if they want to be considered a Super Bowl candidate as well. So both of these teams have both got a lot to prove. And like you said, the 49ers have got injuries. The Jaguars have added some depth to that offensive line on the trade deadline as well. But despite all that, I'm going to take the 49ers in this one. I just think that extra week they've had off, they'll recover from the losses. They'll have a good game plan coming into this. And I expect Brock Purdy to prove a lot of haters wrong. And also, let's not forget that man as well. Christian McCaffrey, the best non-quarterback in the league, like the best, most valuable player in the league for me. I just think he'll carry this 49ers team to the victory this week against the Jaguars. And I also expect Deebo Samuel to play as well. So yeah, give me the 49ers to get back to winning ways, unfortunately. Next up then, we've got the Minnesota Vikings who come off a massively surprising victory last week with Josh Dobbs. And they're taking on the Saints who beat the Bears last week. But in less than impressive fashion, really. They were turning the ball over a lot in that game, which I'm sure you can tell us a bit more about, Minnie. But for me personally, I expect the Saints to continue their win streak this week. I think although the Vikings did look impressive last week, it weren't against the sort of caliber of team or the caliber of defense that the Saints team have. I expect Josh Dobbs to struggle against this defense. They're one of the best in the league statistically. And I just can't imagine a way where Josh Dobbs in a brand new scheme, brand new offense, brand new playbook can actually get past this Saints team. Give me the Saints and Alvin Kamara to have a big game again.
Well, you'll actually be surprised to know, to be fair, that the Falcons are actually up there. Statistically in defense, they're actually top 5, believe it or
Vikings?
Not. No, the Falcons. So really, it was a fairly impressive win for Josh Dobbs and the Vikings. I didn't expect it. I don't think anyone expected it.
I think you can put the blame on Arthur Smith.
His first game. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later on, I think, when we get to that segment. But yeah, good win for Josh Dobbs, to be fair. I don't think anyone expected it. I certainly didn't. But can I see it continuing this week against the Saints? I don't think I can. The Vikings, they're turning the ball over the most at the moment. The Saints seem to be having a lot of takeaways. It's just, can they capitalise on offense this week? We didn't see that last week against the Bears. They only won by 1 touchdown. And considering that, they turned the ball over 5 times and they only won by 1 score, that's quite worrying for myself. But I'm going to have the Saints here. They're going to keep marching. They're running that NFC South at the moment. They're only positive team in the division. So give me the Saints to beat the Vikings this week.
Yeah, we're actually in agreement about the Saints for a change. But we do move on to the next game, which includes your divisional rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who started the season off so well, but now dropped to 3-5 on the season, I believe it is. And they're taking on the Tennessee Titans with obviously Will Levis, who's a very exciting young quarterback. And I'm going to go with the Titans again on this one. Even though they lost last week against the Steelers, they were very impressive, the Titans, or especially Will Levis was. He looked so composed in the pocket. He was passing with such poise on the ball. He's got a great arm talent as well. And obviously we know Derrick Henry, how well he can play. And obviously DeAndre Hopkins, he's sort of been reformed since Will Levis come into this offense. And I just can't see this rut that the Buccaneers are in to actually stop, to be honest. I just can't pinpoint what's going wrong for them at the minute, but they just can't seem to find a way to win games. I think they put up 37 points last week and still couldn't win. It's almost when the defense doesn't play well, they don't win. When the defense does play well, they can't get a win. And I think it's going to continue this week. Will Levis with another impressive game for the Titans.
Yeah, he's certainly been, exciting. He's, bright. Looks good. He looks good for the Titans' future. He has a lot of good weapons around him. To be fair, DeAndre Hopkins, as you mentioned. But I'm actually going to go for a Bucs win. I think they're due a massive bounce back. They've seen that the Saints are going to be extending their record this week potentially, and they're going to want to be clawing it back. And this is the type of game that the Bucs need to win if they want to look to either win the division or get a wild card spot. This is 2 average defenses going up against each other. I think Baker Mayfield will get the pass game going well this week to Mike Evans and Cade Otton. The Titans have actually got a poor pass defense, so I think the Bucs will exploit that this week. And the Bucs have a good run defense as well, so I can see them stopping Derrick Henry. So I'm going for a low-scoring affair, but I'm going to take the Bucs to win by a small margin this week. So on to the 9 PM games, and the first matchup that we've got is the Lions taking on the Chargers. The Lions are obviously coming off that bye week last week, and the Chargers beat the Jets comfortably. And I think the Lions this week, they've had an extra week to plan for this game. They still excite me so much. I think they're going to be pushing for that first seed or second seed potentially still with other teams slipping up, and this is a type of game that they need to win if that's what they want to achieve. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, they all still continue to excite me, and that defense is looking tidy as well. In terms of the Chargers, I know they got a decent win last week against the Jets, but I don't think that's all that impressive, and I'm still not reading into Brandon Staley being the man for the job there. Justin Herbert, I know a lot of people rave about him, but I'm still not seeing it right now. You might argue differently to me on that, Callum, but I'm going to go with the Lions to win this week against the Chargers.
Yeah, well, I think this season, I think Herbert and the Chargers have been quite underwhelming, to be honest. I think you can pinpoint a lot of that on that coaching staff, really. Obviously, they've got Brandon Staley, who's got to be on the hot seat come the end of the season, unless they have some miracle turnaround. And obviously, they've got Kellen Moore as well as their offensive coordinator, who came from the Cowboys. Obviously, I was less than impressed with him when he was at the Cowboys as well. So, we'll see if they make any changes come towards the end of the season. But yeah, the Chargers weren't impressive in that win last week against the Jets. I think the Lions come here off a bye week, and they'll probably start this game slow, but as it progresses, I expect to take over this game. I think David Montgomery's probably going to be back as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be a bit healthier than he was before the bye. So they have a nice 1-2 punch in the run game. The receivers are healthy. I just can't see a way the Lions lose this game. So I'm going to take the Lions in a high-scoring one, despite the fact the Chargers have got a good run defense. But yeah, the Lions in a very high-scoring game in this one for me. Next up then, we got the Cardinals taking on the Falcons. And this is a bit of a dead game, to be honest. The Cardinals obviously 1-7 or something to start the season. And the Falcons, I mean, they're so underwhelming to watch at the minute. There were such high expectations from myself coming into the season for the Falcons. I think I said they were going to win that division with the amount of talent they've got on both sides of the ball. But Arthur Smith, he's not the man for that job. I'm sure at the end of the season, if not before, he'll be well and truly gone. But I am going to take them in this game. I can't take the Cardinals. Although, actually, Kyler Murray is back, I think. Oh, I just remembered that. I might be... No, I want to go with the Falcons still. Falcons have got an elite defense. Kyler Murray, if he does play, will be rusty. And I just think the Falcons have got too many weapons. I just think it's going to be an awful game, a really close game. Just both teams falling over each other. But give me the Falcons to come out on top.
Yeah, the Cardinals, they were certainly disappointing last week. Put up 0 points against the Browns. I know it's the best defense in the NFL, so it's kind of what we expected. But I think for Cardinals fans, they're hoping Kyler Murray's back, because that cameo from Clayton Tune last week could be the worst I've ever seen in the NFL. He went 11 for 20 for 58 yards and a couple of interceptions. The defense didn't look much better either, so I can see it probably been another long day for the Falcons. This is going to be probably a get-right game for them. Arthur Smith might just edge off that hot seat this week when he inevitably gets the win against the Cardinals, in my opinion. So, moving on, we've got that NFC East matchup. We've got the Cowboys taking on the Giants. And I can only see this going one way, and that's going to be a complete blowout, it has to be said. I think the Cowboys last week, they were arguably unlucky to lose against the Eagles. I think probably only got themselves or potentially the officials to blame on that one. Dak Prescott, I remember when we were sat down watching it, Callum, and Dak Prescott, 2-point attempt to take it just to requiring a field goal, and what does he do? He steps out of bounds. I'm still finding it funny. I'm not sure you are.
No, I've been trying to get that out of my memory, to be honest, but thank you very much for reminding me of that.
Well, that's a nice refresher for you, that. But, I mean, this week it's going to be a completely different story. We've got the Giants, for me, the worst team in football. I think you'd agree on that?
Yeah, I think they're probably the favourites at this point to get the number one pick overall. I mean, they haven't got a quarterback now, I don't think, for the remainder of the season, other than whoever it was who played last week, and he was absolutely awful. The defense has been playing better of late, but again, they're playing the Cowboys, who are one of the best teams in the league, so it's going to be a big struggle for them.
Yeah, Daniel Jones out for the season. I'm not sure if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm sure Giants fans can argue amongst themselves on that one. But yeah, give me the Cowboys for a more than comfortable victory this week. They could probably even put out the second or third string and get past this Giants team, in my opinion. I know that's probably a big statement to make, and I'm sorry, Giants fans. I can't believe I'm saying it myself. And I'm speaking this positively about the Cowboys.
Yeah, give me the Cowboys in this one as well. Like you said previously, I think they beat themselves last week against the Eagles. They were certainly the better team for most of that game. The referees at times were appalling as well towards the Cowboys on that last drive, and on numerous drives we were beaten by ourselves. This week, it's not going to be the same story. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win in a more than 40-point difference in this game. Genuinely, I don't think the New York are going to score a touchdown. They might even struggle to score a field goal, but I'm going to say it's going to be at least something like 46-6 or something like that. So yeah, give me the Cowboys in an absolute blowout. CeeDee Lamb's going to go absolutely huge again, and I think this week we're going to actually see Tony Pollard get going, finally. But yeah, the Cowboys to win. Next up then, we see the Seahawks coming off a massively disappointing loss last week to the Ravens. It was a bit of a reality check for them. They're taking on the Commanders, who are pretty much just tanking the season away at this point, although they did get a lucky win over the Patriots last week, but I mean, that's nothing to write home about. I'm expecting the Seahawks to get back to winning ways in this one, and I think this last week sort of summarised for me how good the Seahawks actually are. They can beat the bad teams, but when it comes to the good teams, they're going to get beat every day of the week. I think this is going to be a close game just because the Seahawks can't seem to beat anyone comfortably this season. They seem to let teams stay in the game until the fourth quarter. But they are going to bounce back. They're going to get back to winning ways. I expect Kenneth Walker to have a bigger game this week, and Geno Smith to have a bit of a better game as well. And obviously that defense is going to allow very little points against his very poor Commanders offense, and especially that offensive line. I expect the Seahawks to be at the quarterback all game long.
Yeah, I mean, every team's been at Sam Howell this season. He is the most sacked quarterback, and we've said it before, that offensive line is completely non-existent. But they did get a shock, or a big surprise win last week against the Patriots, in my opinion. They traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young just before the trade deadline, and we thought they actually are just going to tank the season away. And then they go and beat the Patriots, so bit of a weird result, and I mean, I don't think we saw that one coming. And likewise, the Seahawks, they got completely blown out against the Ravens. I think we've said it more or less all of the season that the record suggests that they're better than they actually are. But I still think this is going to be probably a get-right game for the Seahawks, and they should get past this Commanders team. I'm not going to say easily, but I do think they'll beat them. Probably small margins, but yeah, they'll just beat them this week. So moving on, we see the Raiders taking on the Jets. And, you know, we're aware that they sacked all the coaching staff a couple of weeks ago, and that certainly worked out for the best. Garoppolo got dropped down to the backup, and Aiden O'Connell got given that number one role in Las Vegas, and it certainly worked out for them last week against the Giants. They pretty much got blown out. They beat them comfortably. Josh Jacobs looks like he's getting back to his best. He went for a couple of touchdowns. The only concerning thing for me this week would be, will that defense be able to stand up strong against this Jets team? And I think it will. Zach Wilson, he's not really impressed me that much this season. He continues to disappoint. He sort of has spells where you think he's going to recover his season, and then he goes and puts 6 points up against the Chargers. It's just not good enough. We've seen this season that the Jets often keep their team in the games and keep things close, but we need more from Zach Wilson, and we need more from that Jets offense. So I'm not reading into the Jets too much, but I'm going to take the Raiders. I think they've got more to offer on offense, and although I don't think the defense is good enough, I just think that they're going to outscore the Jets again this week and get the win.
Yeah, well, I think finally we're going to disagree on something. I'm not even sure we've disagreed at all these predictions video, but I'm going to disagree with you here finally. I'm going to take the Jets, and I'm going to take the Jets because of that defense they've got. I mean, they're limiting most teams to sort of like less than 20 points, and in some cases a lot less than that, and I think this is like a sort of a humbling game for Raiders and Raiders fans, and Aidan O'Connell as well. I just think he'll be so confused by this Jets defense, who is one of the best in the league in my opinion, and I just cannot see the Raiders scoring more than sort of 14 points. The only thing that's up in the air is whether this Jets offense can score more than 14 points, because I genuinely think Zach Wilson is probably the worst quarterback in the league. I don't even think that's an overreaction. I think he's not looked good at any point in his career, and he's just being saved at the minute by the Jets defense. But the reason I think the Jets are going to come out on top in this game is the Raiders have actually got the second worst run defense in the league. And I think the best offensive weapon at the moment for the Jets is Breece Hall. I know Garrett Wilson's a great player, but with that quarterback play, he's sort of underutilized. So I think Breece Hall's going to have a huge game this week, over 100 yards and a touchdown. And I think the Jets come out on top in Vegas with a small margin of victory. Next up then, the final game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills taking on the Denver Broncos. And a couple of weeks ago, I would have taken the Bills without even thinking about it. But now it's almost a thought in my head, because the Bills just cannot seem to get good. Like, you look at the team, there's a lot of expectations of this team. But at the minute, I know they played the Bengals for a good team last week, but I'm just saying, like, they've lost way too many games than I thought they would have at this point of the season. And I genuinely think that there could be an upset here for the Broncos. Obviously, the Broncos they won the other week against the Packers, and I know the Bills are better than the Packers, but and against the Chiefs as well. So the Broncos certainly can't upset a team here, but I'm actually going to take the Bills to get back to winning ways. Josh Allen to have a big game as well. But I think it is going to be a lot closer than people are anticipating this one. I think it's going to be low scoring yet again, but give me the Bills to take over the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos certainly did shock us with that win against the Chiefs, but it's one of those games I'm not really going to read into that much. It was more the Chiefs having an off day, I think. They had a fair few turnovers and a fair few mistakes as well, so any NFL team really would capitalise on those sort of mistakes and get the win. So yeah, I'm not going to read into that one too much, but I you know what, I completely agree with you, and I stand with you with what you've said about the Bills. They've not really been that exciting, probably more disappointing, and I imagine Bills fans would agree with that. But it's just one of those games, probably going to be tight. Could it be low scoring, or could both teams put up big numbers? It's just one of those games that's just really uncallable. But I'm going to trust Josh Allen. I trust him more than Russell Wilson I have done all season, and I'm going to continue sticking with the Bills. So I'll take them this week to beat the Broncos. Thank you for watching this episode of the NFL Abroad podcast. All previews will be posted on Thursdays. Drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Any feedback will be appreciated. Thank you.